What's up, Doug? As you might know, by studying the base sciences that the base science is trying to teach you, you can find raw chicken right here in the nature. If you are a real lucky fellow like me, or skillful hunter, you can get that raw chicken right here in the nature. You vibing today. That's that OG Finnish nature. I like it better in summer, but it's still pretty cool in winter. It's not that cold. So there's a lot to talk about in the black pill community about bones. How do I get them bones to attract the beaches? I don't got any luck with the beaches. I need better bones. Well, today I was getting raw milk from the raw milk farm that this very based old couple is doing. And they are very open-minded people, much older, 60 plus. But I love talking to them about the milk life, the raw milk life, and everything. And we was talking about vitamin D and how you can get superb, not as good as the sun, but when it comes to food, superb source of vitamin D here in Finland has been burbot. And especially the burbot liver and the burbot roe that I have introduced to you guys. Go check those videos out. And this lady who runs the raw milk farm, she was like, my dad used to be a fisher, and he used to love burbot, and he used to love the burbot liver. Like it was very common dish, burbot soup with the liver. She didn't mention the roe, but she did mention that her dad loved the liver. Like, loved the liver. Very common. And she said the children, they weren't really into that. She also mentioned that her dad, being a fisher, fishing in the beautiful Finnish lakes, all day, every day, he got sometimes pretty hungry out there in the lake. And guess what this man did? We get those tiny little oily fishes. It's called muikku in Finnish. Very good fish. Usually it's made with just fried in butter. But she said that her dad used to just eat them for his lunch, raw, out there with his boat. That was completely new to me, that Finnish people were eating raw fish like that. And it got me thinking that how much these older generations really didn't, and their children don't really talk about what people used to do even back 50, 60 years ago. This was probably more like 80, 90 years ago. Because raw meat, burbot liver, all these things, saturated fat. We were also talking about how her dad loved big fat, pork fat, like large amounts of pork fat. That was very traditional here in Finland. And how her dad used to love this pork head soup, and he loved the brain. And she said to me that these are the kind of things that I cannot really talk about some of my raw milk customers, because people get triggered about brains, eating raw fish, eating burbot liver. Like these things have been completely forgotten. But when you start to ask, especially here in Finland, this was two generations ago, people were still super close to the nature, like very, very close to the nature. So this guy was eating big brains every year, large amount of lard, big fat, and she said that her dad used to love the fat. Raw fish, that was completely new. Like how much people just don't talk about it because it's so frowned upon. We are bringing the raw meat back. Because here's the final part that links it to the bones. All these black pill nerds. It's not all nerds, but you get the point. This modern young men are obsessing about because everything is broken down. The structure, the construct we live in is super broken down and things don't work anymore. That's why we obsess about these bones and stuff, height. But here, then she said that in her dad's later years, he went to this hospital in Helsinki, the capital of Finland. And they were doing some tests to her father, especially on his bones. And the doctors were extremely surprised. Like one day they came to him after this test that you have the best, the thickest, the strongest bones we have ever seen. And that was just like in my mind. Here's another one. Here's another anecdote. This was after she was talked about all this burbot liver, fishing, eating raw fish, having all this pork lard, pork fat, pork brains, all these things. Also a lot of raw milk and raw butter and rye bread. That was their grain source here in Finland back then. And the doctors were amazed that you have the best, basically the best, the strongest bones we have ever seen. And this was maybe probably like, I don't know, 40 years, maybe 40, 30 years ago. But this was end of his life. And he had never broken his bones, obviously, or anything like that. Although you can break even the strongest bones if enough force is applied. But anyway, that was super interesting story to hear what her father was eating all day, every day, being a fisherman, what kind of dishes he liked or loved. And it's all those traditional dishes. It was no surprise to me. Most of the Finnish persons probably have same stories, because back then people had to eat those things to survive, and those things build a really good body. Those things build a really good bones, really strong bones. And it's just basic biology, biochemistry. What do you need to build strong bones? What do you need to build strong body? And then you see it everywhere, across the board, across all the indigenous cultures, across all the people that still lived closer to the nature, when all these matrix foods weren't introduced yet really. Across all the other animals, like Pottenger's cat study. It's everywhere when you freaking have the eyes to see it. Now we got these ideas and beliefs we got from our education system. And these findings that I'm speaking about go a little bit against them. Like this raw milk lady said that these things cannot be talked about with everybody because it triggers people. That's when you know you are brainwashed, when you get triggered about talking about food and just what people used to do. When you get triggered about simple things like these because of your ideas and beliefs, you're simply brainwashed little NPC. Anyway, get out there in the nature. That's a really good way to open up that brain and remove those beliefs, those bullshit ass beliefs, and get some clarity up in your head. See you later.